Hello, everybody, again, and welcome to this session. I'm happy that you were able to join. I'll switch to the other presentation. Essentially, it will have a little bit salesy start, but hopefully you will not mind. The reason for that is that we believe it's really important to explain first the positioning of the product, because we want to just be sure that the messaging is very clear, where Dbvisit can be used best and where it fits best. So this is the agenda for today. Erin already covered that. It's nothing unusual what you would expect. First, my introduction, then we'll check the architecture of Dbvisit. Then I'll walk you through installation of the product and also setup for the standby database, and also I'll be showing you some additional features. And at the end, we'll do some QA. We've got some agenda to cover, I think, for 75 minutes. So let's just jump straight in. So let's start with introduction. My name is Jan Klinke. I work with pre-sales consultant in Dbvisit for about, I think, almost 7 years now. I'm located currently in Prague. Outside, I do have 15 degrees, sunny weather, and it really feels like spring. So I couldn't wish for a better day to talk about Dbvisit Standby for SQL Server. This is my email address, so feel free to contact me later if you would find yourself in need of answering any questions, or even if you need to schedule some sort of demo or like online call. It's no problem. I don't mind, and I love to talk about the product. So first obvious question is, why would you need a software for a functionality which is already present in the SQL Server and can be used essentially out of the box? So let me try to answer this question because this is what we get asked all the time. The current situation with the SQL Server is summarized on this slide. Basically, the DR solution for SQL Server is managed mainly by log shipping and availability groups. These solutions work out of the box, but they have their disadvantages. To, let's say, quickly summarize it, AG could be a challenge because for this you really need to install a cluster, and it's sometimes too big solution for what the DBAs or the customer would actually need. The log shipping is also existing and also does provide you with DR capability, but the problem with this is that it can be usable, let's say, only in smaller environments. It's kind of easy to set up, it's kind of easy to maintain, but then the problems would come when you would have more and more databases, you would need to reconfigure something, or you would need to maybe need to reset up everything from the scratch every month or so. This is where things get really tricky, and this is where the out-of-the-box solution really start to somehow crumble, and they are not sufficient anymore, or let's say they are not the best fit for the customer experience. So I'll start with like delving into more details of what the product will actually help you with, and also be showing you the architecture. So what the product does, if I would have to put it in single sentence, is a very improved way of the traditional log shipping for the SQL Server. And on top of that, we will provide you with additional features. The best use case for this product are environments which are, let me say, larger or more complex than normal log shipping for SQL Server could handle. Again, it's for the reasons I mentioned before. Setting up log shipping is working out of the box, but could be really, really tiresome and tedious if you need to reconfigure it, or if you have many databases. I tried to somehow make a little graph of how things work in normal database environments. So you have some sort of like a manageability curve or line, and this manageability would be the number of DBAs, it would be the tools you use, and also the processes you use. And typically this curve is, or this line is very, very flat because you don't have every day a new DBA or a new tool. On the other hand, you also have the complexity of the environment, which I would say consists mostly of a number of DBs you have to manage and from the requirements you need to fulfill. So for example, time to restore a database or some reporting capability, or maybe creating databases for your developers. And apart from this manageability line, this line, the complexity is usually much, much steeper, because you don't have DBAs, you don't get DBAs every day, but you do get new databases or new instances quite frequently. And there's this point when, or where the two lines meet, and this is what I think is the loss of control, where you really start feeling things slipping out of your hands. And it's because you're not able to manage the log shipping, you're not able to keep up with the requirements you have. And if you feel like this, or if your customers would feel like this, this is the very reason why we introduced this product. It's to help you manage more complex environments and more complex tasks. And it will, like the product Dbvisit Standby, will help you to free up your time to do something else other than setting up log shipping over and over again, or maybe tending to availability groups and failover cluster. I also included a ballpark cost of the product because although we are all DBAs, although we are technical in this presentation, I think this is a very important metric, because having a software which will provide you with a nice way of managing log shipping is very good. On the other hand, there's only so much you would like to pay for such solution. So the way we do the licensing is per instance. Price per instance is 2,600 euros, and at minimum you need to have 2 instances, and that's why I mentioned 5,200 euros as a ballpark price. This is for perpetual license. It's not limited in time, and you only need to pay 25% of support per year. And that's just the Dbvisit. Then you also need to consider, because if you have a DR solution, if you need the SQL, of course, for DR solution, you need another server. And this server obviously will be running SQL Server instance and needs to be covered by a license. So what I just want to mention here is that for SQL Server license, it's possible to have this software assurance license, which will give you the possibility to not license the standby server at all. The only condition is that the standby server and the SQL Server instance there will not have any open databases. The databases will need to stay in restore mode. So I guess to summarize this slide, we really make, or the whole purpose of the product is that we make the log shipping very, very easy. We bundle some additional features on top of that, and we are most suited for environments which have, let's say, which are too complex for standard log shipping, and for customers who don't want to use AGs. So now let's move on to the basic concept of the product. Some of you may be familiar with our previous versions, version 9 and version 10, which were exclusively for Oracle. Version 11, because we designed it for SQL Server, not really designed it, but we improved it so as it's able to support Oracle and SQL Server as well. We also reworked the concept a little bit. So previously, you tend to have all those sub-processes, dbvinet, dbvagent, maybe dbvserver, and so on and so forth. This changed with version 11, and with version 11, you have just 2. We try to simplify things. You essentially have just DBV Agent Manager and Control Center. There are no other components which you can install. As you can see from the picture, and as you can guess, the way it works is that you install the DBV Agent Manager on each server, and then somewhere you could have centralized host which will run the Control Center. And this Control Center also hosts the web server, which you can manage, which you can use to manage all of your database servers. Let's say it's not exactly necessary to have this Control Center host installed as a separate or on a separate host, like shown in the picture. If your environment is simple enough, you may even choose to place it on any database server. It doesn't need much system resources, and it will do just fine with a SQL Server instance running next to it. There's no problem with this, really. All of the communication is encrypted. This is ensured by certificates. So even if you place, let's say, the servers in the cloud and you are communicating through internet, you don't need to be worried. The communication will be encrypted and your data will be safe. When talking about cloud, I forgot to mention, or I didn't mention, that it's possible to install this product almost anywhere on any cloud you can imagine, AWS, Azure, even private cloud. The only condition is that there will be operating system. You need operating system to install it on the server, and you need to install the DBV Agent Manager directly to the database server. It's not possible or not supported to manage your database from, let's say, remote place. Yeah, that's not how it works. So you need to always install directly on the server. A very common question I get is also what happens when the control center goes down, because as you can see here, it's kind of like a centralized point. So when it goes down, simply put, nothing happens. The synchronization can still keep going. And that's because the agents are also able to talk to each other. So the control center is not some sort of communication bottleneck. So when it goes down, the synchronization can continue. The only problem is that for more complex actions, such as maybe switchover or, I don't know, creating another configuration, you really do need the control center to be up and running. You cannot do that when it's down. But the basic tasks like activation of standby database and the log shipping can continue. There is no problem with this. All right, let's move on. So this is a little bit detailed overview of the architecture, how it works. I guess it's not that much important. What I would maybe like to mention is that each stack will have several sub-processes, several components, which will be running on your server. The DBV Agent Manager will manage everything on its own. And on the server, when you install the DBV Agent Manager, you will only see a service, one service, and that's it. So the only thing you need to manage the Dbvisit processes would be to start and stop this service. So we try to keep that very simple. The DBV Agent Manager service is also taking care of the log shipping to the standby server and as well as applying. And here's where our product differs from the traditional log shipping a lot. We do not have any sort of agent jobs. Everything, the shipping schedule, the apply schedule is managed by the DBV Agent Manager service. So when you will be running and using our product, you don't need to really bother with managing any agent jobs. It's not needed anymore. You will not see them in the system. We don't use them at all. All right, and maybe one last note here. The control center also contains an observer. An observer is something which is part of the monitoring, and it's a component which you can, if you wish, you could use it for even setting up an automatic failover. So the way it works then is that observer is checking constantly the primary and standby database, and in case the primary is down, the observer would activate the standby database. All right, I think that's it. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, here we have summary of feature. So I would say the most important feature, of course, is the very easy and simplified standby database creation. You will see it later in the demo. You can set up the standby database and also the log shipping with literally few clicks. It's completely different experience than with the traditional log shipping. Because of the concept, one really important feature which is interesting is also the delay of the log apply on your standby database. This is for cases when somebody would maybe drop a table on your primary or delete some rows. Then when you set up a delay, let's say, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, you can take this time, you can take this delay and stop the synchronization and maybe get the data outside of the standby database and easily restore them to the primary from which they were deleted. We also do have a synchronized database feature. This is for cases when, for any reason, you will have a gap in the log chain. And the way this works is that it will basically make a backup based on difference between primary and standby database, and it will apply it to the standby database. And then afterwards, you're again able to synchronize with the logs. We also do offer you possibility to synchronize logins. So whenever you would maybe add a new user for your SQL Server database, you're able to synchronize this login to the standby. So even in case you're creating a lot of users, you have a lot of databases, it's easy to synchronize this, synchronize the logins. And last really good feature is the graceful switchover, which will enable you to basically change the roles of the primary and standby database. So primary will become standby and standby will become primary. This does require downtime, but then it's a reversible process and you can easily use it when, for example, you would like to, I don't know, apply some patches on your primary server. So you would shut down your application, do a switchover, apply the patch to the database server, or maybe an update, and then switch back. That's perfectly possible. When it comes to failover, it's again action we, let's say, automated and also made easy. But on top of the failover, there is also a possibility to recover from failover. This recovery is not fully automated process. There is one manual step you have to do, and that's delete the old primary database. But I think I'll show it in the demo as well. So let's move on to the installation. In this section, I will just go through the steps you will have to do, and then I will do the installation on my test servers or my demo servers. I guess okay, let's start with what is really supported by our product. I don't want to just read the bullet points because it would make no sense. What I recommend you to do once you will receive the slides, you can just check our documentation, which releases are supported, and you can as well check the SQL Server documentation to see which, or let's say the certified configuration. This is really important. In general, we can say that we support all the configuration possibilities like operating system combinations and SQL Server versions, which are supported by Microsoft. We do also work on Linux, and it's also possible to set up Dbvisit between Windows and Linux. So whether you have your or if you have your SQL Server instance on Windows and you would like to migrate, for example, to Linux, it's perfectly possible, perfectly fine. You can set up a replication between or log shipping between Windows and Linux, and then by activating Standby Database, you would easily migrate. When it comes to the supporting of the Windows, we support almost everything. And then if we move on to the SQL Server versions, because yeah, those are the operating systems. We support everything from 2012. And I guess here the most important part is this one. We do support lower to higher version. We would not support switchover functionality in this sort of shipping or application, but we of course do support the log shipping. So this is also a possible use case to install a newer SQL Server version in maybe a cloud, and then simply by activating the standby database on the cloud on a higher version, you would do the migration to higher version and to cloud. Yeah, so there are really a lot of possibilities you have, and a lot of possibilities which this product or using this product will give you. So after the operating system environments and SQL Server version requirements, we come to the, I would say, most important, which is the network requirements. Here I have a representation of which ports do we actually use. You have the arrows, you have the port numbers. Again, it's not really useful to talk about it. Just take a look at it when you will be installing Dbvisit in the environment, and make sure that you allow these ports for the communication. One maybe import or really good hint here is that you can use this PowerShell command to test the communication. So once you install Dbvisit, once you start everything, you can use this to test if indeed the communication is working as it should. And the last part is, let's say, the other requirements, which, for example, include free disk space. For Dbvisit, I would recommend you to reserve at least 10 gigabytes of free space. It's not for the binaries. The binaries are really small. The most space is then eaten up by various trace files and log files. So yeah, just make sure you have at least 10 GB of free space. When it comes to user, which you will use to install the product, you can choose really any user you wish. The only condition is that it needs to be a member of administrators group. So yeah, you have really free hand in this case. Next important thing, what I see a lot is if you're running any sort of antivirus on your servers, just make sure you whitelist the whole Dbvisit directory, because antivirus really doesn't work well with Dbvisit. Yeah, there are a lot of issues whenever, or I've seen a lot of issues when somebody was using antivirus. It really didn't work well. So just make sure to whitelist if you're using any solution for this. Next important thing is hostname resolution equivalency. So when you will be installing Dbvisit across multitude of servers, you always should take care that each hostname is resolved into a single IP address across your whole environment. So if you have maybe etc hosts locally, you really need to verify that the IP address is everywhere the same. Otherwise, again, you will see issues. When you will be installing the product and creating the configurations, you will always see the name of the server. And it's kind of important to decide right from the beginning whether you will be using the fully qualified domain names or non-fully qualified domain names. It's more or less, I mean, it will work. It's more like a cosmetic issue, but for the sake of consistency, I would really recommend you to take the decision right at the beginning and then just continue with just one standard. Like, don't use both, don't mix both, because it will create confusion and can create issues. I also do receive a lot of questions when it comes to network requirements. There are essentially none. The only requirement is that you need to have sufficient bandwidth on the network between primary and standby to be able to convey all of the logs which are generated on your primary. So yeah, very simple requirement. When it comes to latency, I don't think it's that much important. I think you can get away even with 100 milliseconds or 250 milliseconds. In this sort of replication, it's not a problem because the connection is not open all the time. It's not a continuous stream. It's always opened in certain intervals for sending the logs, and then the connection is terminated. And last but not least, your primary database, of course, needs to be in full recovery model. All right, I think that's it. Installation and setup. Yeah, I think I will just show you because, yeah, okay, so I will just show you. I don't think it's necessary to talk about this on the slides. So, right, let's get to my environment. I do have two simple Windows servers with SQL Server instance running on each. I do have two databases on server 191, and I will take it as a primary server, and I also have a database on my other server 192. I cleaned up Dbvisit completely, so I will do the installation from the scratch. So let's see how that works. When it comes to installation, as you remember, you have the DBV agent, manager, and then control center. The order in which you install those components doesn't really matter. You can start with anything you wish. What I do all the time, I always do start with the standby server because it always feels better than to, let's say, interact with the primary server for the first try. So if there's any, you can choose any order you like, but I recommend start with standby server. So I'll do just that. I'll go to my standby server, and for this demo, I will install the DBV Agent Manager as well as the control center. I will not have separate hosts for the control center. I will use my standby server to host both components. So I'll start with the control center. As you see, it's a straightforward wizard. There's nothing not much really. By default, the component will listen on all IPs. You don't have to bother selecting host names, anything like that. You could change the ports, but usually there's no reason. Everybody's running with the default. Passphrase is something which is important. For those of you who would be maybe upgrading from older versions, or if you are maybe used to older versions of Dbvisit, this has nothing to do with those. It's something I would say a little bit new, and the passphrase here is used to generate certificates for the communication. So when you enter the passphrase, you should make sure that you remember it. But even if you don't, even if you maybe forget it after half a year, it's still possible to reset it. The only problem is you will have to do this passphrase reset on all the servers. So I'll choose just some very simple passphrase. Okay, and this is the default directory. Again, I will not change it. I will leave it as it is. Install, copying new files, control center, starting services. Should be straightforward, really. Finish. So it was very easy. Control center is installed. You will be able to see a new service which is running. And it's logged on, or the user it uses as his local system. So let's just quickly verify if the control center is indeed running, and I can see it is. Okay, yeah, cool. So I think that looks good, and I can proceed. So the next thing I will do is I will install the agent on the standby server. The agent has a little bit more things you need to enter. So first, you always, when installing agent, you always need to enter the host name. And this is directly related to what I just said before. Choose whether you go with fully qualified domain names or not. In my case, I will go with fully qualified domain names, I think. So CZ. When installing each agent, you need to point it to the control center. The way it works is that once agent is up and running, it will automatically connect to the control center. And there is no need for you to add manually a host in the control center anymore. So just make sure you choose the correct name of the control center host and that it can be resolved. Next thing you choose is a user which you will use for the, let's say, standby or DBV agent manager service. In my case, I will use the administrator, and that's because I don't want to complicate things, and also SQL, I have, I think, yeah, I don't want to complicate things, so I will just use administrator. But of course, if you would wish, you could use a separate username. I think that's it. Again, the agent will listen on all IPs. And this is the place where you enter the passphrase. And this is the passphrase which needs to match on all the servers you use. Install. All right, here we go. Should be straightforward, really. Okay, finish. Let's check the services. I think we will see, yeah, there's a new service. This is the user I used for the installation. It's running. Yeah, I couldn't wish for more, I guess. So let's check again the GUI. This is a really good thing to check once you install any agent, because if you say start with SQL Server and you will see the host in this list, it seems or it means everything is working correctly. If you will install the DBV Agent Manager and it will be running and you would not see it here, it means you did something wrong. Yeah, so this is a very good place to check this. Okay, so let's move on to the primary server. The last thing left to do is to install the DBV Agent Manager on my primary server. Again, just maybe to show you, I do recommend that you, because it's really easy, I do recommend to you to test the communication if possible. So I will take, I think it goes here, yeah. Okay. And let's see if it works. It should work. Waiting for response, maybe, but I do not know. Yeah, TCP has succeeded. So yeah, this is really easy way for you to test the communication. And this comes very important, or this is very important in situation you see something is not working correctly. So you should always check the port numbers and just try to do and perform the test. All right, so let's install the agent. Now I'm on my primary. The installation is for the agent is everywhere the same. You will not see any new prompts or different prompts. Again, I need to be consistent. So here I will use full-qualified domain name. CZ, yes, sounds good. And again, do not forget to enter correct hostname for the control center. So that's this one in my case. And again, I will use administrator for installation. I think I'm all good. And again, the password. So starting services, finish. Let me refresh. Yeah, Dbvisit agent running administrator. Again, let's make the check or do the check in here. You can see it's connected. I can see the host here. So this means I did everything correctly. Everything is working as it should. One small note I have, as I said, by default, each component is listening on all IPs. You can see it right here. The DBV Agent Manager is listening on all interfaces. It's no problem if you want to change this. There is a configuration file right here, StandbyMP conf DBV Agent Manager ini. And here you would just say file transfer listen address. If it's empty, it's all interfaces, but I could just say something like this, right? Save the file, restart the DBV Agent Manager. Where are you? Go. And yeah, and here we go. Yeah. So this is just in case you would need to change the listening IP address. But I do recommend that you don't touch it and just let it listen on all interfaces. Usually it's not a problem. All right, so that concludes the installation. Now the product is fully installed and they're able and ready to actually start with the configuration of the log shipping and creating standby databases. So what I like to do is start with adding the SQL Server instances. Currently, nothing is here. So you only need to say add new instance. You select the host on which the instance runs and choose authentication type. I always like to use the local one. So sounds good. I will add my first instance. I will add my second instance as well. Okay, confirm add. And here we go, we have two instances. Note that you do not really specify which instance is primary, which instance is standby. And that's because you can really do some crisscross mode. And on this instance, you can have some primary database and some standby, and the same on this instance. So you're not really limited to anything by saying, oh, this is my standby instance. No, it's not like that. One instance can host at the same time primary and standby databases. It's not a problem. All right, so once you have the instances added, you're good to go, and you can actually create the log shipping configuration. And this is when or where it really comes apparent that it's so much easier, so much better than configuring the log shipping, because I can be done in really few clicks. So I'll start with SQL Server. Oracle is not currently on the program for today. So the only thing you need to do is to select the databases you want to create standby databases for. And you can also create a multiple, or not create, you can select multiple databases. So in my case, I can select both databases on my server 191, and I will select the instance on 192 as my standby. And I will just need to enter the license key and create the configurations. The license key should be this one. I hope it works. All right. Yeah. Maybe just a note. There is always a possibility to have a custom location for your log backups if you wish to choose them. You can just browse for the folder and select it. But yeah, in this demo, I will just leave it as it is. I will not change it. But nevertheless, there is the possibility for you to change the location for the log backups. So create configuration. All right. So the configurations are created. Currently, there is no standby database existing just yet. We have to create it. But once we create it, the log shipping will be also enabled. And I think it should be also possible to select like multiple databases all at once and create a standby database for all of them at once. So during the standby database creation, you basically, or what we do is we take a backup of the primary database, we transfer it to standby, and there we restore it. You're able to change each or directory for each database, for each site, primary standby server for the backup, if you would find yourself out of space. And you can also choose if the automated standby update is enabled after the standby database creation, and this is basically the log shipping. I see no reason why to disable it, so I will leave it just as it is, and I will say start. And at this moment, hopefully, yeah, this one was fast because it's essentially an empty database. This will be a little bit slower because it's the demo AdventureWorks database. But yeah, at this point, the log shipping is set up, it's enabled and already active. And this is the reason, or yeah, we come back to the beginning of the presentation where I said like very much improved way of traditional log shipping on SQL Server. And this is exactly the reason why I said this, because with traditional log shipping, it would take you a lot more time. I'm aware some people would use scripts for this, and that's also possible. That's also perfectly fine, but you would never be able to get this this easy, never. I think I will create also configuration for my third database, because why not? So I will choose the database which is actually on my standby server, or the server which I consider standby. And maybe a good note is that from what you can see, like once you select the database, it's sort of dynamic because you get, depending on what you select, you already get the possibilities. So for example, if I would select existing one, it would say that now that is already, yeah, instance contains database with the same name. So there is some logic behind when you select those databases. So I'll just do this. I'll create standby database for this database. This primary database, yeah, I'm fine, create configuration. And again, set up now, set up disaster recovery, start. Yeah, all right, so yeah, that was easy, I think. The good part is you are able to, again, do the, let's say, mass actions or multiple actions. So you saw that I created standby database with this feature, but you can also do a graceful switchover, you can do activation, and most importantly, you can even stop the log shipping. So this is also a possibility if you would like to do, I don't know, some sort of maintenance or whatever, you can from one place easily disable the automated standby update or even change its frequency. So this is like this multiple actions or actions on multiple configurations is really where the product does shine. And this is what makes administering of multiple SQL Server databases very, very easy. Much better, even if you are good with scripts, this is much better than scripts. And yeah. All right, so I guess that's for this part. That would be the installation and the initial setup, let's say. In the presentation, there are some screenshots, but yeah, you will get a video, and I think the steps were pretty much self-explanatory. So let's move on to the additional features. There is not much left, which is good. We will be able to cover really everything. So the additional features, one really important one is the synchronization. So this is like, it's useful in cases when the log chain is broken, when you have no possibility to back up a log and apply to standby because it's not existing. And the way it works is that we will check the difference, the delta between primary and standby. We will take a differential backup based on the LSN number, and we will transfer it to standby, apply it to standby, and then from that moment on, you can again synchronize with the help of the traditional log shipping. It's very easy to do that. Again, it will be just a few clicks, and it will help you to overcome situations when the log is missing. The next one, really good one, feature, which I already mentioned a few times, I think, is the graceful switchover. It's basically a process which is reversible and has zero data loss. That's really important. But please just consider or take care that the application is always shut down. You don't want to have any users connected to the database at the time when you will be doing the switchover. Here you have the detailed steps, what's happening during. So essentially, it's about converting standby to primary, then primary to standby before, or let's say the process is fully automated. So even if you have log shipping enabled and you press graceful switchover, what we will do, we automatically will disable the observer. We will also disable the log shipping, and only then we will proceed with the switchover. So it's again like a very one-clicky thing, one-clicky action, and you don't have to manually disable the log shipping if you do not wish. So after the switchover, once everything is finished and done, again, we enable the observer, we enable the log shipping. So you don't have to do anything manually again. And of course, yeah, activation and standby mode. Activation is basically the core feature of this product because it activates the standby database in case of a disaster. I will show you how it works, just so as you get the feeling how it will behave. Again, you could make it automated, but I know not so many people like to use automated activation. So most of the customers would result only to manual action to activate standby database. This action is really straightforward. It disregards completely the primary server. Primary server can be unreachable completely. It doesn't matter. The activation will work with no issues on the standby database because it only concerns standby database. Standby mode is something which or is a mode in which you can put your standby database. It's read-only mode. Again, you can do it with a click, and you can verify if your standby database is consistent and if it contains all the data you need. You can do it at any time during the log shipping, or you can do it even before the activation, just to be sure. Automatic configuration. Okay, automatic configuration. I think I will stop right here. I'll just go through the switchover, synchronization, and deactivation, and I will continue with this one a little bit later. I don't want to talk that much in theory. So let's have a look on the switchover. So I will, for example, choose these two databases for switchover. As you can see, the log shipping is active. The observer is also active for these two configurations. And let me just try the graceful switchover for both of them. You will see it's a very fast process and will do all the hard work in the background. So you don't really have to enable anything. Yeah. So it was really fast because I have really small databases, but even if you have bigger, it wouldn't take that significantly more time. Now I have on the server 192 all primary databases. 191 is completely my standby instance. You can see that you can see the steps for the switchover in detail if you click on this task. I guess the most important ones are these ones. So this is, as I said before the switchover, we disable the automated update, we disable the observer, and at the end we enable it. So everything is really straightforward. You don't have to do any manual actions, let's say. All right, next one was the synchronization. So this would be in case your blockchain is broken. Again, it's a straightforward action. You basically only click synchronize and say start. Again, yeah, it was very fast, but yeah, that's because it's test. Yeah. So this is something you would use in case the blockchain is broken and you would have difficulties synchronizing your standby database. And the last part, which I talked about and I want to show you, is failover. So I think I will maybe choose this one, this database, and I will say activate standby. Standby database is ready for activation. So I will say activate, yes. All right. So now I have this, or the database on this server. Sorry, it's this one. So this used to be my primary, standby server. Now it's primary. Now I have both databases online, and that's because the failover doesn't, or disregards completely the primary database. Okay, so just to see how it looks like in the SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, refresh. Okay, so this used to be this is currently my standby server. I have all my primary databases running right here on 192. Again, if I refresh it, databases, yeah, so you can see all the databases are in primary. This is my standby instance. You can see that these two databases, they remain the standby, but this was the one which I activated, def1, right? And what I want to show you basically is that now it's in the failover state. And to recover from the state, what you need to do is basically drop your old primary database, which was this one. So I will delete it. 192, I hope I'm doing the right thing. So refresh. Now it should be not present. So I can do recover from failover. Okay. So once you recover from failover, so this was the manual step you're required to do after failover. That was to delete the database manually, but that's the only step. Then from the GUI, as I did, you can recover from failover, and then afterwards you can create again your standby database. And this is the process which I used in the beginning. It's not really different in any way. Okay, so here we go. Again, it's very fast because it's just an empty database. And then the very last step to get to the original configuration is to perform the switchover. Okay. Okay, and now I am back from where I started. So this was in really few seconds, a process which you would have to go through in case you had a real disaster recovery scenario in your environment. That means activating your standby database, deleting your old primary, creating standby database in place of the old primary, and then performing switchover. Okay, so that was the failover. So we've got I think we're good with time. It's 10:53. So let's move on to the other features, which I want to show you. Well, actually, there is one important or one really good feature which I want to showcase. Hopefully, it will be without any issues. So sometimes, or the challenge when running any sort of DR environment is that you also do want to get your standby databases created automatically for any new database you might potentially add to your primary instance. We have created a framework around this. We have created a feature to make this possible. And the way it works is that if you enable the automatic creation on one instance, then whenever you will create a new database on that instance, we will automatically create a standby database on the other instance, which is considered standby. The process or setting up the process is very easy. You can do it in the GUI, and basically you just enable one checkbox and that's it. So let me try to show you how it works. So enabling the automated standby database creation is always done within instance pair. So here I have the pair of these two instances, 191, 192, and by default, the automated creation is disabled. But if I click this button, I can easily enable it. Okay, just keep in mind it's for instance pairs. And if I enable it here on this instance, CZ win 191, then whenever I will create a new database on this instance, it will, the product will create standby database automatically here. You can, of course, enable both sides if you wish. I will just go with one. For me, it's enough. So I'll save, it's updated, and now let's see if it works. So get back to the dashboard, and let's go to 191. And okay, refresh. Right, this is correct. And let's say create new database. So I'll call it Tuesday. And the important part, of course, is to choose the full recovery model. But that's about it. Yeah. Create. All right. And now, in theory, in a few moments, I should have, okay, it was really fast. I should have a new configuration and also new standby database. That's the important part. New standby database created for this database, which I added on the instance which I chose. So this is again, a feature which is useful in environments with a lot of databases, a lot of changes, where it's difficult to keep up with simple log shipping and maybe scripting. All right, and I think, yeah, sorry, I'm skipping from the GUI to the presentation and back, and that's because I guess I want to keep it consistent, but sorry for this. Some of you may find it confusing, but this is, anyway, this is the last slide. There are also two last things which I want to discuss or talk about. One is the ability to synchronize logins from one instance to other. And the second one is to change database state. This is something I a little bit discussed or described previously. So this is the last slide, I think, before the Q&A, and we are right on time, I guess. So let me start with the database state, because that's the easiest part. So for each database, you're able to say change database state, and you can change its state. As you can see, the hint, yeah, it doesn't work for the standby database, but with primary, you're able to take it offline, you're able to restart it. And for standby database, you're able to switch it to the standby mode. So it's the database def1, switch to standby mode. I do need to specify a directory for the snapshot. So browse, see, I think temp will do. Yeah, so it's about right. I'll say start. Okay. Which doesn't succeed. Yeah, access is denied. Okay, so this was not a good directory after all. So let me try again. So I think it's because of privileges, and yeah, I'll just go with this directory because this one should be okay. Let me check. No, it doesn't work again. Access is denied. Okay, so maybe let me try def1 191. I think I'll do here. Yeah, I think I'll do it like this, and let's see how it works. Right. Standby mode, browse. 10. Yeah, I'm not really, yeah, you can see I'm not really good friend with Windows and privileges. So yeah, okay. But yeah, if you give full access to everybody, yeah, it always works. So yeah, now it's successful. And now you're able to actually, yeah, the state is different. It's not restoring, it's standby. And when you look at the database, if I refresh the states again, you will see it's read-only. So this mode enables you to get some reads from the database and to verify its data. Okay, so I think, oh, synchronized logins. Yes, synchronized logins. I'll try to quickly show you how it works. So synchronized logins actually is done on a database level. So right here, whenever there is a login which is assigned or mapped to the particular database, you're able to synchronize this login to do standby. I already do have existing user. I'm not sure if it will work. I wanted to create a new one, but okay, let's see if it works. But yeah, it should be here. It should maybe, okay, but let me maybe try to create it from the scratch. So I'll try to do new login, or maybe like this, new login, I'll say, right. SQL Server authentication, right, okay, looks good. And user mapping, and I will map it to the, this one, I think, yeah. Hopefully, yeah. Yes, all right, so for the database which I map the login to, I can do synchronized logins to, yes, to the CZWin 191. And now if I will go here and I will say connect database engine, I should be able, if I remember the password, I should be able to log in, I think, yeah. So yeah. So synchronized logins is also a useful feature which you can take advantage of. All right, and I guess that's everything I wanted to show you. I'm happy we managed it in time. So I think let's have a look at the questions. So okay, so let me just pause the screen sharing, and I will paste the questions so as you can as everybody can see them. So first question is, let's say it will work. Will it work with the backup solution? I'm not really sure about this VeritasNet backup, how it works, but in general, I can say that do not think of this DR as a backup replacement. This, or having a DR database, is something which should be on top of your existing backups. Your backups are still, let's call it the holy grail. Backups are the base for everything. You should never, ever abandon your backups. Having a DR is something which you can have on top, and which will give you a lot more flexibility than backups. It will give you like possibility to get back online in really few minutes, whether or if your production database would fail. But you should never, at the same time, you should never ever abandon your backups. You need to do, ideally you should do both backups and also DR. But the very important question is, what will happen to the existing log backups when Dbvisit is in place? The way it works is that we will take ownership of the log chain. So if you are already backing up logs with any existing solution, you need to basically let this or abandon this and give it to Dbvisit, and you need to reconfigure the backups so as the logs are not, let's say, deleted or moved away. They should be, the backups of the logs should be done with copy only. Next one is any data loss for the switchover. No, there is no data loss for switchover. It's a reversible process, but really important is it requires downtime. That's very important. So at all times, you should always shut down your application, make sure everybody is disconnected from the database, and then do the switchover. And the third question is basically the same as the first one. Yeah. So again, Dbvisit will take ownership of the blockchain. You're basically very welcome to continue backing up logs, but you only need to do it with copy only. Okay. Okay. So we have another questions.
We've got a couple of people who have raised their hand as well, Jan. We've got got David Bosch who's raised his hand. If you have a question, David, would you mind please leaving it in the Q&A? Or I'm not sure if anyone's able to also speak during this as well.
I don't think so, Ryan.
Right, okay, yeah. David, please just feel free to leave it in the Q&A. But yep, there's plenty of other questions, Jan.
Okay, I can see very interesting questions. Resume share. So will your solution truncate the log backup? Yes, we will do that because we take the ownership of the backup or of the log chain. Is there a CLI mode? No, at the moment not, but we intend to make it possible. So for now, it's just the GUI because GUI was the whole reason why we created this product. But we are aware of the fact that people would like to use CLI. They like to use command line. So we definitely want to introduce this. I'm just not sure if it would be CLI or API, but something like that will definitely come in the future. Control center, single point of failure. No, it's not. Our control center can go down for some time. It's not a problem. The synchronization will continue. There's no problem with that. You can also activate the standby database. Well, actually, that's maybe something which I lied a little bit about, because there is actually some really basic CLI. So if I go here, I don't know if it will be possible, but yeah, so that is really limited command line for now. So in case the control center is down, you're able to use this activate command to activate the standby database. But in general, for more complicated tasks like a switchover or anything else, the control center needs to be up and running. This one, I have to honestly say, I don't know. I don't think it would, personally, I don't think it would differ much. In general, I don't think it would, if you have a look at the description of the switchover again, so it's a switchover. Yeah, there's this one. Yeah, it really depends. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer for this question. It's really difficult to say. But it's an interesting one. I will try to discuss this and get back to you with the answer. This one is also really interesting. Will the UI still work around 200 servers? So in theory, yes, it should be possible. But what I would say, if you look at this picture, so the control center is really like a single unit, a single point. And in general, I would maybe discourage you from connecting 200 instances to a single control center. What I would do is I would like to split it according to some criteria, or let's say, like, okay, so for instance, I would try to split it according to the customer, or according to the application, or according to the lifecycle phase. And my suggestion to you would be to aim for maybe, I don't know, like 50 servers maximum for one. The reason why I say this is that whenever you would like to upgrade the product, you would need to upgrade all of the servers, all of the components, all at once. I mean, it doesn't have to be all done in 30 minutes. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say, you need to shut the synchronization down for all of the primary and standby servers, including the control center. And then you can do the upgrade, and then you can start again. So because of this, I would really recommend you to not do this. Personally, I feel this is just too much. And I would ideally say maybe, I don't know, yeah, 50, 20, 30 servers for one UI. I would really try to split it. But with that being said, if you don't mind, it's perfectly possible. That's why we have this sort and filter. You can easily filter by host. You can easily filter by configuration state. Yeah, it's basically designed and made for this. This is just my personal preference. What I would do, I wouldn't really put everything into one single UI. I would just try to split it according to some criteria, let's say. All right, let's move on. So, okay, so let me copy the further questions. Okay, so we've got 3 more questions. Difference between switchover and failover. So failover is basically something which is done only on standby server, only on standby database. The primary is not touched at all, and it's not irreversible action. So once you activate the standby database, you have to either use it or delete it. There's no going back. And yeah, as you say, it's what SQL Server already has. So just the biggest difference is this one is irreversible, while the switchover can be run as many times as you wish, because it's that's related to the previous question. Data loss during switchover. There's no data loss for the switchover, and the reason for that is that you need to shut down your application completely, and only then can the switchover process start. And that's the reason why we are also able to do it all over again, because we are doing all these steps which are described. Sorry, which are described in the presentation basically. So it's about like converting databases primary to standby, standby to primary, and it's reversible. So these two, switchover and failover, are very much different. How does this product and values when compared to always on? So here I would say that the biggest, let's say, value added is that you don't really require any AGs for this product to work. As I said, it's essentially a simplified version of the log shipping, and it really depends on the use case which you have. So people who are only after disaster recovery with some sort of data loss and they want to keep this simple, then this product is perfect for them. But if you are doing like maybe some sort of synchronous replication, if you really need to have AGs for any reason, then basically this product will not bring you that much added value, let's say. So I would say overall, the advantage of this product comes, or the biggest advantage of this product is you can deploy it to environments which, for any reason, you don't want to make them much complex, let's say. So it's perfect for environments where you have few servers and you don't want to install any AGs, you don't want to have enterprise editions, but you are in need of DR. This is where the product adds the most value, let's say. DBV agent and DBV server process in case of Oracle DB. It's the last question, I think. Yes, okay. So the picture here, which is one, I think, it's also valid for Oracle. It's exactly the same thing. There are no longer any DBVNet, any DBV agent, any observer, any DBV server processes for Oracle anymore. You will get DBV Agent Manager and Control Center, and that's it. When you upgrade, the upgrade, okay, it depends whether it's on Linux or Windows, or it should always like get rid of the old processes, let's say. And after the upgrade to version 11, even with Oracle, you will be using only DBV Agent Manager and Control Center, nothing else. So even for Oracle, you will see the same service running in here, only MP agent. There will be no other services running there. But at the same time, as shown in this picture, each service or each process will have the sub-processes which would, you can see Dbvisit right here. So it's sort of like incorporated in the Dbv Agent Manager stack. Yeah. And yes, exactly. Last question. I will just paste it. Is it supported on Standard Edition? Yes, it is supported in Standard Edition. Basically, what I can say is it works the best on Standard Edition. If you have, it's related to this question. So if you have really like multiple AGs, if you have Enterprise Edition, the edit value is not that much. But if you have Standard Edition and you want DR, then it's definitely supported. And this is, I would say, the best use case for this product. Okay, last one is this one. So when doing failover, do we need to point the application to the new primary database? So unfortunately here you need to do it manually. We don't have any as you say, alias functionality. You will need to do some manual modifications after the failover. The only thing where we can help, or the only step we can automate, is we do have, if I would click on the configuration, there's this custom scripts. And here you can add the script, which would be run directly on the server after failover or even after switchover. And in this script, you could potentially incorporate or include some of the changes you need to make after you do the failover. This script will be always run from the server where the instance is located. So if you would like to change maybe a DNS record, it would be a little bit more complicated. You would have to connect to some remote server, but nevertheless, the possibility is here for the automation. You can use that.
Jan, I'm not sure if this question was missed or not by Satish. It says currently in our environment, Dbvisit with Oracle database.
Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you,
I'm not sure if that's all right. I'm not sure if that one was answered. And just to let everyone know, if you need to hop off now, that's no worries. We'll be sending the recording. But if you want to stay on for a couple more minutes to ask questions, then please feel free.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. So thank you, Erin. I'll continue answering the questions. Yeah, and as Erin said, feel free to drop off. So Erin, the question for the Oracle, basically.
So you've got it. You can see it. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yes. It's this one, and essentially it's related to what I try to describe. Maybe not that nimbly. So yeah, it's the same I explained about the Dbv Agent Manager and Control Center. With Oracle, you will get just the Dbv Agent Manager and Control Center in version 11. There will be no longer any Dbv Agent, DbvCTL, Dbv Server separate processes. You will get just two services. That's it. So even if you have Oracle, the services will look just like this, with only the agent and the agent and the Control Center. Yeah. All right.
We've got two more questions, one anonymous and then one by Mohammed.
Okay, do we have the license? Okay, this one is very interesting. Let me paste it. So it's this one. Do we have to license? Yeah, this relates to what I said in the beginning. If I just move up to the slides, it's this one. So with Microsoft, or when licensing the SQL Server instance, you have the possibility to purchase or to get the software assurance license. I don't know really the details, but essentially it also covers free upgrades, something like that. But also, more importantly, in case of this software assurance, you're able to not license the standby instance at all. And the only condition is that all the databases on the standby would remain in the restoring status. They would be just restoring. They would not be open. Of course, for the situations for failover, I think Microsoft allows you to have them online for some limited time. But unfortunately, I don't know exactly how much time that maybe would be best to ask Microsoft directly. But long story short, you don't have to license it if you have the SA, if you have the software assurance. And provided the fact you will keep it in restore mode. Yeah. Asynchronous. Okay, and yes, and the last one would be this one. Whether it supports asynchronous synchronization for the DR. Yes, basically the whole concept of this is it works in asynchronous mode. So it relates to what I said in the beginning, that for each database, you're able to choose the update interval for the log shipping. So you can modify it. There's only a hard limit of 1 minute, but then once you enable it, then we will do the log shipping and log apply in this exact interval which you set. All right, I don't see any other questions. So I guess that's it from me. Thank you a lot for all the questions. Thank you for your time attending this session and listening to me. So Erin, over to you, I guess.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jan. Really, really informative, really great session. I'm sure everyone feels the same. And thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. And please look out for the follow-up email. So just to mention again, it will include the recording, the presentation slides, and the link to complete the quiz. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks again, Jan, and hope you all have an awesome day.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.